98 million people watched the Super Bowl in 2019. And while it's safe to assume that we can all agree that that is a large number of people, it's actually the lowest number of viewers from the past decade. Now let's compare that to the 2019 League of Legends World Championship. This event also had 98 million viewers, but unlike the Super Bowl, this was the highest number of viewers from the past decade. So League of Legends is one of many video games that are played competitively under the term esports. You remember how parents used to tell their kids, don't waste your time playing video games because you can't make a career out of it? Well, it turns out that they were wrong. Video gaming is and should be recognized as a legitimate sport because, one, fans of both esports and traditional sports look up to their respective athletes as role models. Two, the intensity of training for esports athletes is on par with the training of traditional sports athletes. And three, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, which is better known as USCIS, recognizes esports as an athletic sport. So if you picture sports and esports to be a living organism, the fans are like the cells of the body. Why athletes can have a career in competing in their sports in the first place. Sure, at its core, esports is just like any other form of entertainment to its viewers. It's a form of escapism. And to add to this, according to the article, What is Esports and Why Do People Watch It?, the novelty of new team players appearing on the scene may be an important aspect of following esports. The authors of this peer-reviewed article, who are named Himari and Sjöblom, are professors of game research and digital culture at the University of Tampere in Tampere, Finland. And they agree that more fans tune into esports competitions because of the athletes' personalities as well as the team rivalries. This kind of association is what makes the fans want to play that same game in hopes of one day becoming as good, if not better, than their role model, maybe even playing with or against them on stage one day. The same exact thing can be said about basketball. Plenty of kids looked up to players like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal. Some kids not only made it their mission to play in the same court as them, but they actually accomplished it. And this sense of role models is what also helps saturate the industry with more talented players. So moving up, if the fans are like the cells of the body, then that makes the players like the organs of the body. And while they are the ones doing the work, they actually need the cells in order to exist and succeed. Sure, some of these players might be naturally talented or pick up the games faster, but their success is largely dependent on others. In the peer-reviewed article, which is titled Comparison of Psychological and Cognitive Characteristics between professional internet game players and professional baseball players, the authors state that each pro team has one general manager, 2 to 4 coaches, and several other staff members. The authors, who are known as Kang, Lee, Nam, and Han, are professors in the College of Sports Science and College of Medicine in Chung-Ang University, Seoul, South Korea. And they agree that the staff members of esports teams are extremely similar to traditional sports teams. And they also agree that esports players are professionals in their field, and as such, they should be discussed alongside regular sports athletes. Their research shows that the psychological characteristics of esports players are extremely similar to those of professional baseball players. And both types of athletes scored higher than the general population did. So case in point, esports players aren't like the average person, and they're actually more in line with traditional sports athletes. Finally, the sports community itself is like the body, and this body needs certain nutrients to function properly. These nutrients are the rules and regulations of the sports and esports industry to maintain a certain standard of professionalism. The USCIS acknowledges and recognizes esports as an athletic sport. According to an article titled Just a Game, Adoption of Franchising in Esports, the USCIS started granting a P1 athlete visa for international esports players in 2013 to allow them to receive payments from prize money and a salary. The authors are Ibrahim and Lewis, and they're practicing lawyers in a firm based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they focus on litigation and disputes for franchising. Not only does the USCIS recognize esports as an athletic sport, but even ESPN has started to air esports events, and they've dedicated certain blocks in their programming for different esports programs. But even though there are several organizations and networks that acknowledge esports as a legitimate sport, unfortunately there's still other people out there who say that it shouldn't be because there isn't any physical activity involved. According to the article, The Structure of Performance and Training in Esports, there are similar skills between esports and traditional sports, and there has been a correlation between increased performance in esports athletes with increased physical activity. The authors are Nagorsky and Wiemeyer, and they are the professors at the Technical University of Darmstadt in Darmstadt, Germany. And they agree that esports are a legitimate sport, and they have the evidence to back up the importance of physical activity. According to their research, over 60% of esports athletes exercise or work out for over 2.5 hours per week in order to maintain fitness and healthy habits. So coming back full circle, video gaming should be recognized as a legitimate sport because fans of esports look up to the athletes as role models, just like traditional sports. The intensity of training for esports athletes is on par with the training of traditional sports athletes, and the USCIS recognizes esports as an athletic sport. To put things in an economics perspective, there's an expected 18% increase in growth of esports popularity between 2019 and 2022, with an estimated $1.8 billion revenue by 2022. The world of sports is evolving, and esports is already recognized as a legitimate sport by official government organizations and sports networks. Isn't it time you recognize it too?